actually come about that you were inspired by a poet?
I have a gallery that I sell my jewellery at normally in Shropshire, in Much Wenlock. And I was speaking to Mary, the gallery owner, and she told me of the festival, that this was happening. Mm-hmm. And I said to her, well, I presume you're going to have an exhibition alongside it. And she said, yes, she was, and it was called Words. And I asked if I could be in it. Because, in fact, poetry's always been a bit of a passion of mine since I was a child. Mm-hmm. So I instantly thought, well, hey, I always have pieces in my head that I haven't made, and I was thinking about a piece that I'd wanted to make for a long time, and it seemed to connect to poetry in a way. So in my head, this piece had started to develop.
So have you worked with poems before?
No, I haven't worked with poems before. Right. I just love poems. Yeah. And I guess I used to, when I was a kid, I used to, in my bedroom at night sometimes, especially if it was something, some love had gone wrong or something, I used to sadly sit there and read poetry.
Did you?
Yes, how sad
That's
is
so
that?
romantic.
I know, how sad. So yes, but then I guess poems are often used at times of, to do with love. I think poetry very often is associated to love. Mary and I proposed to her that I wanted to choose somebody in the festival and work with their work. And she then told me who was in it and mentioned Carol Ann Duffy. So of course I straight away wanted it to be Carol Ann because...
Am I right in saying that she's the first female Poet Laureate?
She is.
And I mean, there's an obvious connection there for
yes.
me with jewellery and a female.
Exactly, and I was delighted when I found out it was her, because yes, that's exactly it. That's how I felt. If it had been a man,
isn't it?
No. And I came up with the idea that I would make a collection of work that would go into the gallery, so it'd be good for Mary, hopefully. But at the same time, I thought I'd make a piece for Carol Ann as a present, in a way to sort of celebrate her poetry and celebrate, her amazing work. So I did, and they said, great. So that's how it started.
And what's the piece?
And she said that she's writing a poem specifically for this festival, and it would be really lovely if it could be connected to that.
Did you get the poem?
I got the poem a couple of weeks ago when it was first published in the Telegraph. I think it was a couple of weeks ago. And by some stroke of fate, the poem was called Bees. Now, I mentioned earlier about this piece in my head. I had two pieces in my head. And one of them I'd been drawing back before Christmas was based on a bee. Oh, wow. So I already had in my sketchbook the ideas for a piece, so even though I didn't. Kind of, yes. Yeah.
Here are my bees, gold blurs on paper, besotted, buzzwords dancing their flawless, airy maps. Been deep, my poet bees, in the parts of flowers, in daffodil, thistle, rose, even the golden lotus. So glide, gilded with talent, thus, wise, and know of us, how your scent pervades my shadowed, busy heart, and honey is art.
It's clearly that her poetry just speaks to you, doesn't it? And her poetry really resonates with the kind of work you do, the kind of images that inspire you.
Yes.
So it's not.
No, you're right.
It's not obvious, is it?
No, I know you're right.
It's something about the way that you work and her.
Yes.
Her poems kind of respond and resonate with you.
Yes. No, you're right. I just think that the poetry is emotion and jewellery is emotion, so it doesn't need words in a way.
And perhaps you're translating her words into something that's more about imagery rather than sort of just using her words. You're translating.
Yes, they're really lovely poems. She's a truly inspired woman.